Let's get right into it. The era of unchecked artificial intelligence experimentation, it is officially over. What we are actually looking at across the enterprise landscape today is a severe, hidden crisis. A massive crisis of trust and a staggering operational liability.
Take a look at this number, 66%. Right now, two-thirds of employees who rely on AI output at work are just taking that information and using it. They aren't evaluating it, they aren't validating a single piece of it. They're basically just hitting copy and paste. That is an absolutely massive operational vulnerability.
And this widespread blind reliance creates a structural nightmare when you contrast it with this next fact. Over half of the global workforce, 54%, actively distrusts the very technology they are using. Think about that contradiction for a second. We have unverified, rampant adoption layered directly on top of fundamental distrust.
When you meticulously break down KPMG's latest data, you expose a genuinely dangerous shadow ecosystem of complacent use. People are completely bypassing security protocols right under the radar. 61% of people actively hide their AI usage from their bosses. 56% admit they've already made mistakes because of AI, and 44% are flat-out contravening corporate policies. They are passing off AI-generated content as their own work and actively injecting unverified errors right into corporate workflows.
So what's the underlying structural factor driving all of this friction? Well, it's a massive failure in leadership and governance. The sheer speed of AI adoption has just completely outstripped organizational literacy and safety protocols. David Rowlands, the global head of AI at KPMG, really hits the nail on the head here. He says, closing the literacy gap is not simply a technical challenge. It's a leadership imperative for unlocking AI value. Because honestly, without literacy, you simply cannot have accountability.
To resolve this architectural debt, organizations have got to shift their fundamental philosophy. We need to move away from traditional AI, which is pattern-based, operates with minimal human intervention, and focuses purely on autonomous replacement. To actually survive this crisis, we have to transition to augmented intelligence. This is a framework designed exclusively to amplify human capability, keeping firm human-in-the-loop oversight.
So what exactly is augmented intelligence? HP defines it as a human-centric design philosophy. It positions AI not as a replacement, but as a sophisticated, transparent tool that enhances human decision-making. It explicitly preserves our critical thinking, our ethical judgment, and ultimate human authority. It acts as the structural solution here, utilizing transparent machine learning so that the reasoning remains completely explainable to the human operators who hold the final say.
Now, this transition is already fracturing the global economic landscape. We're seeing a massive global AI adoption paradox. Emerging technology hubs, like Thailand, for example, are significantly outpacing advanced economies. Intentional, regular use sits at 80% in emerging economies versus just 58% in advanced ones. And they're achieving this simply by prioritizing AI training and upskilling, resulting in a massive gap in trust and efficacy.
So why the huge gap? It comes down to perception and strategy. Emerging markets view AI as an immediate, strategic tool to fill critical resource gaps, which drives a 74% efficacy rate. Advanced markets, on the other hand, are paralyzed by uncertainty and a total lack of governance. They are treating it like an abstract threat instead of a tactical integration.
And this operational friction gets even worse when you look at the tools themselves. A staggering 70% of employees are out there using free, publicly available generative models. They are completely ignoring the secure, employer-provided systems, which account for only 42% of usage. This unregulated flow of corporate data out into public servers, that is a primary driver of the shadow AI crisis.
As the data visually confirms right here, this divergence proves a critical thesis. Robust AI training and organizational guidance directly correlate to the safe, effective deployment of these systems. Advanced economies are lagging behind simply because their adoption vastly outpaced their training, leaving them with a workforce that is cautious, undertrained, and honestly, way less effective.
If we leave this unchecked, this shadow AI adoption creates a devastating long-term architectural debt, the active erosion of foundational human critical thinking. It is shocking, but 81% of the upcoming workforce now relies on machines instead of actually learning core tasks. 76% use them without any evaluation whatsoever, and this bleeds straight into the workforce. 66% of current workers say they feel unable to complete their work without AI assistance, and over a quarter report diminished critical thinking and collaboration. That is a direct threat to human capability.
Look, true capability won't just emerge by chance. You can't sit back and hope for the best. Passive observation is a guaranteed path to failure here.
It has to be built deliberately into your culture, your strategy, and your everyday practice. Mitigating these systemic variables requires a highly rigid, tactical implementation framework.
The required blueprint for this, derived from HP's implementation strategy, demands 4 sequential system gates. First, you need a ruthless assessment of organizational readiness. Second, strict data quality evaluation. Your inputs have to be clean. Third, a comprehensive skills gap analysis to know exactly where your people need upskilling. And finally, structured resource allocation and deployment.
But you can't stop at the technical deployment. Layered onto that must be KPMG's trusted governance mandates. We're talking about adopting clear policies, focusing heavily on literacy and training, totally redesigning work practices for human-AI synergy, and strictly enforcing human oversight in critical processes. This is exactly how you embed that human-in-the-loop oversight right into the structure of your workflows, turning employees from mere operators into empowered collaborators.
At the end of the day, the currency between human ingenuity and artificial intelligence is trust. Organizations absolutely cannot scale faster than the speed of their own trust. That makes rigorous AI literacy and completely transparent governance the only mechanisms capable of unlocking real enterprise value without triggering catastrophic operational failures.
The data clearly delineates the dividing line between future market leaders and totally obsolete organizations, which brings us to a critical question, and it demands an immediate response. Will your organization lead with augmented intelligence, or are you going to fall victim to the shadow AI crisis? V. Packaging blueprint, thumbnail, and on-screen visuals. Thumbnail text hook, the shadow AI crisis. Thumbnail visual concept, a highly minimalist, high-contrast layout. The background is pure dark charcoal or black. The single, sharp focal element is a fragmented digital human silhouette dissolving into a glowing red server blade, symbolizing the fracture between unchecked machine output and the erosion of human oversight. Key graphic assets/B-roll direction. Insert overlay diverging economics chart, to be layered during the narration of the advanced versus emerging economies data breakdown, slide 8 to slide 11, to anchor the complex statistical contrasts visually. Insert overlay, all-U decision loop diagram, an authoritative, sleek flow diagram to be displayed during the explanation of HP's system gates and KPMG's governance mandates, slide 14 and 15, mapping the human-in-the-loop structural mechanism.